The Kethavar fortress had stood unconquered for 3 centuries, its obsidian walls rising like jagged teeth from the crimson plains of Vorthak Prime. Within its depths, the most feared warrior caste in the galaxy honed their skills, their chitinous, exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh artificial lighting. They were bred for war, engineered for victory, and had never known defeat, until the day a single human walked through their front gate. Scout Lieutenant Sarah Chen adjusted the collar of her standard-issue exploration uniform as she approached the towering entrance. No weapons, no armor, no backup, just a data pad, a universal translator, and what her commanding officer had called typical human stubbornness. The massive gates, designed to intimidate any approaching army, cast long shadows across her small frame. The Kethavar sentries chittered in alarm as she approached. Their mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound that had struck terror into the hearts of countless species across the Andromeda spiral. Chen simply raised her hand in greeting. "Hello," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the courtyard. "I'm here to speak with your war chief." The guards exchanged glances, their compound eyes reflecting confusion. In their warrior culture, challenges came with fleets and armies, not with polite requests from solitary figures barely reaching their chest plates. After a moment of hesitation, they escorted her inside. War Chief Thakmor stood 9 feet tall, his carapace scarred from 100 battles, his 4 arms each capable of wielding weapons that could cleave a human in half. He studied the small creature before him with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. "You dare enter our stronghold alone, soft skin?" His voice rumbled like grinding stone. "Are you here to surrender your pathetic species before we crush you?" Chen pulled out her datapad and scrolled through several files. "Actually, I'm here about the Zerathi." The temperature in the war chamber seemed to drop. Every warrior present knew that name. The genocidal machine race that had been sweeping through this sector, consuming entire star systems and converting their populations into raw materials. The Kethavar had been preparing for their inevitable arrival. "What do you know of the Zerathi?" Thakmor leaned forward, his interest piqued despite himself. "We've been fighting them for 6 years," Chen replied matter-of-factly. "We've developed effective countermeasures. We've also been tracking their movement patterns." She turned the datapad toward him, showing a tactical display. "They'll reach your system in 47 days. The war chamber erupted in angry chittering. Several warriors demanded to know how this tiny human could possess such information. Thakmor raised a primary arm for silence. "You lie. The Zerathi are unstoppable. They have consumed 17 civilizations." Chen nodded gravely. 18, actually. The Helios Republic fell 3 days ago. She swiped to another screen. "But they've also lost 3 major fleets to human defensive networks. We've learned their weaknesses." "Impossible." But Thakmor's voice carried less certainty now. "Not impossible. Just expensive." Chen's expression grew somber. "We've lost 40 billion people learning how to stop them, but we've stopped them." She began displaying battle footage. Human ships outnumbered 50 to 1 using desperate tactics to exploit microscopic flaws in Zerathi designs. The warriors watched in silence as human crews rammed their vessels into enemy dreadnoughts as soldiers made last stands to protect evacuation ships, as entire colonies chose to detonate their own infrastructure rather than let it fall into enemy hands. "Your species fights like the Kethavar," one of the younger warriors whispered, genuine respect coloring his voice. "No," Chen corrected gently. "We fight like humans, and right now we need allies who can fight like Kethavar." Thakmor studied the tactical data with growing interest. "You seek alliance with us against the Zerathi. What do you offer?" "Everything." Chen's response was immediate. "Our anti-Zerathi weapons technology, our intelligence networks, our tactical databases. Full technology transfer, no restrictions." The war chamber fell silent. Such an offer was unprecedented. Species typically guarded their military secrets above all else. "What do you ask in return?" "Partnership. Not vassalage, not tribute. Equal partnership against a common enemy." Thakmor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "And if we refuse?" Chen shrugged. Then we'll try to evacuate as many Kethvar civilians as possible before the Zarathi arrive. We won't abandon you to face them alone, even if you won't fight alongside us. The war chief stood abruptly, his massive frame casting shadows across the room. You would save our non-combatants? Our young? Our elderly? Everyone we can. That's what we do. For a long moment, Thakmor studied this small human who had walked into his fortress with nothing but data and determination. Around him, his warriors waited for his judgment. Tell me, human, he said finally, what makes your species so willing to die for others? Chen considered the question carefully. I don't think we're particularly eager to die, War Chief, but we've learned that some things are worth the risk. Freedom, justice, the right of others to exist. She gestured to the tactical displays, still showing human sacrifice and heroism. We've found that when you fight for something greater than yourself, you discover you're capable of more than you ever imagined. Thakmor nodded slowly. In his long military career, he had seen courage born of desperation, fury born of hatred, but rarely had he witnessed resolve born of compassion. Very well, Scout Chen. He extended a massive clawed hand. The Kethvar will stand with humanity against the Zarathi, not as servants, not as hired warriors, but as equals in purpose. As Chen shook the war chief's hand, she smiled. Thank you. Together we'll show the Zarathi what it means to face two species that refuse to yield. When the Zarathi arrived, 47 days later, they found not a divided system ripe for conquest, but a unified force that combined human ingenuity with Kethvar ferocity. The battle was fierce, but for the first time in their relentless expansion, the machine race encountered something they couldn't compute, the power of freely chosen alliance. Scout Lieutenant Sarah Chen had walked into their fortress alone. She left with the loyalty of an entire warrior race, not through conquest or coercion, but through the simple human act of extending trust first.